Hello everybody, I would like to welcome educators and students to today's session. So this is our second session that we have organized for this year World Ocean Week, presented by We Are in This Together Global Educators E-Conference. Lorraine Leo, co-founder of We Are in This Together Global Educators E-Conference. She is going to introduce you to today's presentation. Lorraine, over to you.
Thank you, Manjula. I'm going to introduce you to Chelsea Prindle. Ms. Prindle is the manager of the Sanctuary Exploration Center in Santa Cruz, California. She graduated from the University of California, Santa Cruz with a Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology and earned a Master of Science from the California State University, Monterey Bay in Coastal and Watershed Science and Policy. As Sanctuary Exploration Center manager, Ms. Prindle is responsible for overseeing the education programs and overall operation of the Sanctuary Exploration Center. She sets program goals, trains appropriate staff and volunteers, and oversees program implementation. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Chelsea Prindle. Chelsea.
Thank you, Lorraine. It's great to be here. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's fun to have such an international audience to be able to speak to today and share a little bit about where I come from in Monterey Bay, California, and what a unique and wonderful area of the ocean that we have here. So Manjula, if you could help go ahead and share my screen. There we go, excellent. Yeah, so as Lorraine said, I am the manager of the Sanctuary Exploration Center, which is in Santa Cruz, California. We're a visitor center for Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which is kind of like a national park or a national forest, but in the ocean instead of on land. So there, I know our national parks are preserved areas of land and ocean all over the world. And the United States government manages 15 sanctuaries in US waters. I'm going to show you a map in just a second. So we're going to be talking a lot about sanctuaries today. So I wanted to make sure to just go over what they are. And so for the United States, all of our national marine sanctuaries are areas of the marine environment with special conservation, recreational, ecological, historical, cultural, off the coast of California. So this is just, I'm gonna play, it's actually gonna go into a video, play the video. So this is a map of all 15 national marine sanctuaries across the United States. We even have one in American Samoa out in the Pacific Ocean. And like I said, they all are a little bit different and special in their own way. So the first one was Monitor National Marine Sanctuary over here on the East Coast, that was set up just to protect one US Civil War shipwreck. But then it's expanded to all of these other ones. And we're gonna go ahead and zoom in here to Monterey Bay. And I wanted to give you just a quick shot of what my day looks like. This is the Santa Cruz Wharf. We could see the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk off to our left. And we're gonna pan over to Cowles Beach. And this is right across the street from where I work at the Exploration Center. It's a pretty beautiful area of coastline, and we're certainly lucky to get to experience and enjoy this every day. It's also a really busy area. This is a very, very busy area with tourist traffic. And so we get to see visitors from all over the world and talk to them about the sanctuary. If you look all the way across the street, this is where the building is. And I'm gonna pause here before we walk inside and explore. So normally if you were a visitor to the Exploration Center, you would then walk in, be greeted by a staff member or a volunteer docent, and they'd share with you a little bit more about the sanctuary, which is what I'm gonna do today. So even though the sanctuary is called Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, actually much larger. We can see here, just to orient you, to central coast of California. So this is just a section of California. We have San Francisco here at the top, Santa Cruz, where I'm calling from today. This bay here is the Monterey Bay. And down here to our south is San Luis Obispo County. This is the Big Sur coastline, which you might be familiar with. It's pretty beautiful and famous. And this black line is all Monterey Bay Sanctuary. So everything within it is protected, kind of like a national park. Today I'm going to talk about first what makes Monterey Bay Sanctuary significant. Remember, sanctuaries all have to be more significant than other areas of the ocean. And I spend a lot of time talking to different people. And a couple years ago, I had a third grader that said, Chelsea, isn't everywhere in the ocean special? And I said, you're right. Everywhere in the ocean is special. But to be a national marine sanctuary, somehow you have to be a little bit more special. So I'm going to talk about why that's the case here. And then I'm going to talk about what we do as an agency to protect this area. So the sanctuary is a place in the ocean, but it's also an agency. So there are people that are constantly working to protect it, like me. All right, so first off, what makes it special? Well, the sanctuary is an incredibly diverse place, meaning that there's lots of different kinds of habitats in a very small area of the ocean. When we have a lot of different habitats in a small area, it means that there's going to be lots and lots of species that use those habitats. So this is just a snapshot. We have, 450, almost 500 species of marine algae, thousands of species of marine invertebrates, at least 400 species of fish, 4 different species of sea turtles, which is pretty awesome, 32 different marine mammals, and over 130 species of birds. So definitely lots of great wildlife viewing. I have a quick video that's going to dive us into, really quickly, a brief tour of some of the habitats that you might see if you were here visiting. There's no sound, so I'm just going to narrate. So to start, one of the habitats is the rocky shore. We can actually go and experience this habitat, see some marine wildlife like this juvenile elephant seal on the rocks. This is what an adult elephant seal would look like. Like we said, lots of different bird watching, especially on the rocky shores when they're above the surface. But if you were to look out onto the water, you might be able to see the tops of our kelp forests and see our favorite animal, that sea otter in the kelp. And if you were to go diving and go below, you would see more marine mammals like those harbor seals, or even amazing fish like this lingcod. This is an interesting ray that we have in the sanctuary. So lots of different species in our kelp forests. And if you move offshore, you could check out our open ocean ecosystem, which has whales, jellies, and even leatherback sea turtles, which we can see here, that come to Monterey Bay just to eat those jellies that we find out in the open ocean habitat. You got it. Good job. There are amazing things out in the open ocean. It's really big, so it's hard to see all these animals, but there are, that last one was an ocean sunfish. This, of course, is a great white shark that we have lots of here. And many different species of whales like this humpback whale that migrate from all over the world just here to Monterey Bay. The last habitat we're going to check out is actually in the deep sea. So there's very, very deep parts of the sanctuary. And sometimes our scientists make remarkable discoveries, like this dead whale that had fallen to the seafloor. It's called a whale fall that was decomposing. Interesting species like this umbrella octopus that makes a fun umbrella shape. And even deep sea corals and sponges. So this video was taken about 2 miles, or, I don't know the kilometer math in my head, but really deep in the ocean, but there's still deep sea corals, and I can see some brittle stars and anemones and lots of different life. We're gonna end here with another deep sea image of a deep sea anemone that is actually sitting on a piece of plastic. So We're not going to talk much about plastics today, but they do end up in unique and surprising places. All right, so we said it's a really, really diverse place. There's lots of different animals, lots of different habitats. And the reason it's so diverse is because of the oceanography that happens here. So this map that I'm showing here is a little confusing, so I'm going to take just a minute to explain it. If you look on the right-hand side and look at all of this black area, that's land. Here's San Francisco Bay. We're here in the Monterey Bay, right here in the middle. All of this blue, green, purple stuff is ocean. And the purple shows water temperature. So, I'm sorry, all of this is water temperature. So we can see that the purple is very, very cold water. And the blue is still cold water. And then as we get into the green and the yellow, it starts to get warmer and warmer. And so what we can see is that right here along the coast, just south of Monterey Bay, as well as up here just north of Monterey Bay, we have some very, very extreme cold areas, which is when cold water is being pushed up from the deep sea and brings with it lots of nutrients. And that cold, nutrient-rich water feeds all of our life. It first feeds our phytoplankton and then our zooplankton and all the way up the food chain to those sharks and whales and sea turtles that we saw in those videos. So because we have so much, that process is called upwelling. You might have heard of it before. But we have so much upwelling where that cold water is coming up to the surface. Makes it cold for us to go swimming, but it's a really, really productive place. Because of this high productivity, or the amount of food that's available, we have animals that migrate from all over the Pacific Basin, even all over the world, to come right to the Monterey Bay coastline to eat. So they migrate from all over every year. So we can see here we have different bird species, like the sooty shearwater is one. Leatherback sea turtles, like we saw in that other movie, come all the way from Indonesia. What else do we have here? Different sorts of whale species, like humpback whales and gray whales and even blue whales that come from mostly south of Central America all the way up to Monterey Bay. So like we said, lots of species coming from all over the world. This doesn't even have sharks on here. Sharks come from all the way from Hawaii. All right, another thing that's unique about this area is we have this huge canyon right in the middle of our bay. So the Monterey Canyon is about the same size and shape as the Grand Canyon, which is in Arizona, here in the United States. And it's about the same size and shape as the Grand Canyon, but it comes right in the middle of the bay, all the way up right to Moss Landing, California. So really, really close to shore, we have very, very, very deep sea communities, which is interesting because, like I said, it adds that diversity, but it also makes it really easy for scientists to study. We have so many research institutions right around our bay because scientists can wake up in the morning, have their breakfast, get on a boat, in a half an hour or an hour be in the deep, deep sea to do their research, and then come home and be home for dinner. And that's really rare and pretty amazing. I'm going to show you some of that research in just a minute. All right, we also have cultural resources. So this is, California doesn't have a tremendously long history of at least Westerners in the area, but we do have, there's some unique United States cultural facts or shipwrecks that have happened. We also have a long fishing history. So people have come from all over the world and immigrated to California specifically to become fishermen. And that's something that we still maintain. There is still fishing in the sanctuary, and that we think is an important legacy to remember. All right, so that's a little bit of a snapshot of what makes Monterey Bay a special place. But now we're going to switch and talk about what do we do as an agency, as people, to help protect these resources. So we say at the sanctuary that we do ecosystem protection, meaning that we take this huge area of the ocean and we try to protect the entire ecosystem. And we do that through three main tools. The first is resource protection here on the bottom. It's basically our rules and regulations. Next is research and monitoring. We want to better understand this area. And lastly is education and outreach. We want to share it with other people from all over the world so that they think it's a cool place and want to protect it too. So let's dive in a little bit more. We're going to start with resource protection. All right, like I said, these are basically our rules and regulations. Now, some of our rules and regulations are a little boring, so I won't go over all of them. But our main one is no drilling for oil. That's pretty big. So here in California, in 1969, we had a pretty big oil spill down in Santa Barbara. At the time, it was the third largest oil spill in the United States history. And back in 1969, people in California were very, very concerned that there would be more oil drilling along the coast and potentially more oil spills. And so through a many-year effort and in partnership with the federal government, eventually Monterey Bay Sanctuary was established specifically to prevent oil drilling. And it still does. If you look out on our coastline, we don't have any oil rigs. But we have other regulations as well. Like if you see this picture on the bottom, we regulate cruise ships. So cruise ships do come here, but we have some extra rules about things that they can and can't do in the sanctuary. We closely monitor when ships have come ashore because we don't want them to leak oil or other things. So we have rules and regulations about that. Lots of things about building, depending on where you're calling in from today. You might have a lot of really, really large buildings very close to the coastline. We don't have that here. That's one of our regulations, is you can't build right on the beach. So that's a little different. All right, another thing we do to try to protect the sanctuary is pay very close attention to the water that's coming from land and going into the ocean. So everything on land eventually makes its way into the ocean, no matter where you are on the planet. But here in Monterey Bay, we have a lot of cities and agricultural areas that are really close to our coastline. And so if there are pesticides or other things, even other pollutants in our waterways, those will end up in the ocean. And so we have some regulations about that. And we also really work with farmers to help them understand what kind of pesticides or pollutants they probably want to avoid, as well as doing a lot of monitoring to understand where different pollutants are coming from. All right, let's talk about research and monitoring. And we're gonna spend a little bit here because I have some fun things to show. So like I said, we wanna understand as best we can about the animals and the habitats in the sanctuary so that we can better protect them. The more we know, the better we can protect the areas. And so we do that a couple of ways. One, we do have our own boats. We have our own research team that works for the sanctuary. But we also use a lot of volunteers. These are volunteer monitors who look for sick or injured seabirds along the coastline. And we work with other partner agencies and organizations to help do research. And so I'm today going to share 3 of our current research projects that are going on, just so you can have an idea a little bit about the kind of research that we do, as well as a little bit more about some of the really cool areas in the sanctuary. So the first one is kelp forests. So just like our intro video, actually, our scientists spend a lot of time monitoring and understanding our kelp forests because they are such a rich and amazing ecosystem that we really want to protect. So I'm going to show a video. This one does have sound, and Lorraine or Manjula, please pop in if you guys don't hear it. But it's a short video of one of our scientists explaining how they're using 360 photography to better understand our kelp forests. Let's turn my volume all the way up. Of course, it's going to take a second. There we go.
One of the things we're hoping to see today and capture using the system are sea lions, California sea lions that are out on the rocks, on the breakwater itself, and they're very curious. So we're hoping to capture some of the habitat and some of the animals that use it, like sea lions. Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Lonhart with the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And we're getting ready to head out to do some diving here along the breakwater in Monterey. And we're going to be using this camera system from Catlin XL in the ocean agency that allows us to capture 360-degree shots using this extreme fisheye lens and the ability to spin this in 60-degree increments. And when you get those 6 shots, one every 60 degrees, You can then take that and stitch them together and create basically something like you'd see in Google Street View, where you'd be able to look down up in the sky and spin all the way around in a circle. And if we get enough of them along the breakwater, we'll be able to start from the entering the water, going all the way out to the tip, and have people take a virtual dive at this site. It's very popular among dive clubs and dive instructors.
All right, so that's just, whoops. That's just one project that they're doing to study kelp forests. They have lots of different types of research programs that they're always doing to better understand our kelp forests, but that was just one fun one. All right, next we're gonna go offshore a little bit. So you might not have noticed in my first map of the sanctuary, so just a reminder, this is the central coast of California. The blue is the ocean. You can see this kind of red line here that goes all the way out and around. That's the sanctuary. And if we go way down here, there's an extra box. And that extra box is a part of the sanctuary, and it goes around the Davidson Seamount, which is an underwater extinct volcano. But this volcano is huge. It basically it's extinct, so it's not erupting anymore. So it's kind of like an underwater mountain, which is why we call it a seamount. And it's huge. So again, I'm sorry for the miles to kilometers conversion here, but it's about 7,000 feet tall. But the tip of it is still 4,000 feet below the ocean. So it's a very, very tall, steep mountain. We usually say that if you are familiar with the Empire State Building, which is one of the tallest buildings in the United States, this is 7 of those buildings stacked on top of each other. So it's a very, very tall, very steep mountain, but it's still all in the deep sea. It doesn't come to the surface at all. If it did, it would be an island. So it's just a seamount, all underwater. And so the sanctuary started studying this place and sending robots down to explore back in 2002 and 2006, and discovered that it's a pretty remarkable place. They found species of animals that they did not expect to find that deep, such as deep sea corals that are as tall as you and I, deep sea sponges that we could sit in, they're so large, anemones, and lots of crazy fish and jellies and octopus. And so quickly they said, let's make this a part of the sanctuary. We want to protect this area and continue to study it. So every couple of years, they are able to go out with underwater robots and tools and better explore this area. And in the last couple of years, they've made a pretty remarkable discovery. And so again, I have another short video to show you what they found and to show you how they do this research.
We are on the exploration vessel Nautilus, which is run by Ocean Exploration Trust, and the Sanctuary Program is partnering with them to use this vessel and the capable ROVs behind me to explore the Davidson Seamount. So the Davidson Seamount is an extinct volcano and last erupted 9.8 million years ago. It's about 70 miles southwest of Monterey, about 50 miles off the Big Sur coast. But it's a really big mountain. It's almost 8,000 feet tall. Now it's 26 miles long and 8 miles wide. It's a huge mountain. It's a very significant feature, and we've barely seen anything of it, probably less than a fraction of a percent. And so we're going to be driving up and down this large mountain in this relatively tiny vehicle, this ROV. We're going to be using some really cutting-edge tools. The ROV behind me, a remotely operated vehicle, is named Hercules, and this thing is capable of going extremely deep into the ocean. We're going to be going over 2 miles, in fact. And so we can't visit there ourselves. We can't scuba dive. We're not going to go in a sub. It's a little bit dangerous. So we're going to be able to send this down and see live, high-definition video of the seafloor. And with this and the excellent team here on the Nautilus, we're going to be able to characterize all of these corals and sponges that we may encounter. This is not a data-intensive expedition. This really is about exploration and communicating what we find live as we're on the seafloor with the general public, with the capabilities that the ship has. It has a massive bandwidth that can send all this video live over the internet. So this really is like we're kids kind of peeking around the corner and just waiting for that next big discovery.
So is this what we expected to find?
I don't think we expected this.
Zero
no.
prediction of this. We made an amazing discovery kind of near the base of Davidson, a little bit away. just thousands of octopuses brooding their eggs. But the really remarkable thing is that they were all lined up in these cracks and crevices where there was shimmering water coming up. There were these fluid seeps. And so there's definitely something really exciting to discover there. Many other animals just in the seeps and nowhere else. And so it's a real big reason to come back to Davidson. You know, the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary has a lot to offer. Never expected this. It's going to be a really cool new story to tell. And that's the cool thing about going to Davidson Seamount. It's a big area, it's diverse, and we think we know what we're going to find. But the great thing about exploration is every time we go back there or other places in the ocean, we find something that we never expected to find. And that's what happened on this cruise. As you can see, I'm standing here in front of the exploration vessel Nautilus. We just got back from an amazing research expedition. We have so many more questions after the amazing discoveries we made, so we're certain to be back. You can follow us doing that at Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. You can also find out how you can get involved to help protect the world's oceans.
All right, I'm going to share these links with you at the end, so you'll still get them. All right, third and final research story to share is actually about listening to sounds in the ocean. So this graphic sort of shows some of the different sounds that are always happening out in the ocean. So we have, we can even hear rain in the ocean. Of course, we can hear animals like dolphins, orcas, sea lions, different other sorts of whales like sperm whales and humpback whales. We can even hear ships passing through, or even earthquakes on land. So all of these different things are happening, and we know that animals really rely on sound to communicate and to find food and to survive. So how do all of these sounds happening at once maybe affect the marine life that we know lives here? So scientists, our scientists, have put out an underwater microphone. So this image shows this it's called the Mars Observatory. It's basically an underwater research station. It's really more of a power box. Humans don't go down and study at this research station, but it's a box with power that's connected all the way to land. It goes about 20 miles out. And you can, with robots, go down and plug in different kinds of equipment. And this yellow, on the right-hand side, this yellow little tool is an underwater microphone where scientists can listen all the time to what animals are out in the sanctuary. So it also helps us understand, what animals are here when, because we can't always see them, but we can hear them. And sometimes scientists have discovered species of whales that they didn't really think came to Monterey Bay, but they can listen and identify them and know that they do. So we're going to listen to 2 examples, which is really fun. The way these videos work is first you're just going to hear the sound, and then after about 5 seconds, we'll reveal what sound we're listening to. So the idea is to kind of guess what we think we're listening. And you can see on the bottom this spectrogram. So this is how scientists can view sound with data. So not only can you hear it, but they can actually see it plotted. So let's go ahead and give this one a listen.
Male humpback whales vocalize in complex rhythmic arrangements called songs that can last more than 30 minutes.
So interesting, huh? And in fact, I'll give you the link, but you can go to a public website and listen live in the sanctuary at any time. And my daughters and I like to listen for a few minutes before bed every night. And the last couple of nights, we've been hearing humpback songs just like that. All right, let's switch to our next one. Here we go. So this next one, it unfortunately gives it away at the top. I'm sorry about that, but it's still interesting to listen to. So let's give this one a listen.
Orcas use calls and whistles to communicate with each other. And, like dolphins, they use echolocation to hunt prey.
So we just listened to 2 different species of whales. Humpback whales, which use sound to communicate long distances. And the example we heard was actually a male singing to attract a female. But orcas travel in really close pods, and they communicate just close to each other. So theirs are more this high pitch, sort of screechy sound, very similar to other dolphins that have similar communication sounds. But they mentioned that dolphins and orcas, what we location, it sounds different. So like I said, these were sort of screechy communication sounds where they're talking to each other. But when they use echolocation, what they do is they send a consistent click out into the ocean, and that click bounces off objects like maybe fish, comes back and can tell the animal what size it is, how far away it is, what direction it is, so they can then go and find food. So it would sound a little bit like this. Just a consistent click, click, click. And occasionally we can even hear that with the microphone, with the underwater microphone. All right, so that was our third story about different types of research that our scientists are doing right now out in the sanctuary to better understand this place. And if you remember, we're talking about what does the sanctuary do to protect this area? And so the third element is education and outreach. So we believe that it's important for not only people who come and visit the sanctuary, but people from all over the world to understand this is a unique area of the ocean. It's a special place, and it's worth protecting. So normally when I'm at the Exploration Center, the visitor center, like I said, we have people come from all over the world, and we want to tell them how they can go and explore the sanctuary, how they can go surfing or kayaking or scuba diving. But hopefully they do that in a safe way that helps protect our animals and ecosystems. But also when they go home, remember all of that water on land eventually makes its way to the ocean, no matter where you are on the planet. And so we want them to make sure that they're also protecting their own waterways by not leaving trash on the street, by not using harmful pesticides in their gardens. So we talk to people about all of those sorts of things too. All right, and we are just about wrapping up. So that's what we do at the visitor center, but then we also go out into the community. So we have school programs where we take students out to the beach and introduce them to the sanctuary. We'll do fairs and events. We're also pretty relevant on social media. So if you follow at MBNMS on any of those platforms, you can get regular updates from us about our research and things that we're discovering. Like I said, you could come if you were ever in the Central Coast of California. We actually have 2 visitor centers. So the Sanctuary Exploration Center is here on your right. On your left is our Coastal Discovery Center down at the south end of Big Sur in Cambria, or in San Simeon. We have a lot of fun digital education products. So I shared some of those today. We have our 360 dives here on the right. So that would be the result of what Steve Lonhart was doing when he was out scuba diving. We have some of the videos that I showed you today. We call them Stories from the Blue, as well as other little short videos where you can get an idea and go into the sanctuary and see, different types of species or ecosystems or habitats. So if you go to sanctuaries.noaa.gov/gallery, that's where you can get all of the online resources that I showed today and even explore more about the sanctuary. I'm a little bit ahead of where I thought I would be at this time, but that's okay. So this wraps up my presentation. I hope that you want to stay in touch. If you have more questions that we're not able to answer today, you're welcome to email me, or you can check out our main sanctuary website to answer some other questions, which is montereybay.noaa.gov. Or like I mentioned, to find all of our online digital education resources, you would go to sanctuary.noaa.gov/gallery. So I'm just going to leave this up, and Lorraine, we can go ahead and answer questions that folks have.
Okay, we have a question. One kid student is asking about, does the octopus have really 3 hearts?
Yes, that is true. Yes, octopus have 3 hearts. And they're incredibly bright and intelligent animals. Yeah, and they're an invertebrate, which means that they don't have a backbone like you and I. And they are definitely the smartest and most advanced of the invertebrates. Yeah.
Okay, another question. Which instrument recorded their sound of these species? That's
So it's
the
called a hydrophone, and it's operated by an organization called MBARI. And actually, let me we could put in the chat. I didn't give you the direct link for that where you could go and listen live, but is it possible for me to put it in the chat? It's mbari.org. So that's mbari.org. And then if you search Soundscape Listening Room, you'll find it. But yeah, maybe I'll put it in the private chat and maybe you guys can push it out to other people. I'm not sure if that's possible. There we go.
okay. There's another question. How many species of whale are there actually?
Oh, whales, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know there's 32 species of mammals. Whales, off the top of my head, I could say we have humpback whales, blue whales, gray whales, sperm whales, sometimes fin whales. So that's 8 right there. And then that doesn't count all of the toothed whales, which would be our dolphins and orcas. And there's probably another 5 or 8 species of just dolphins and orcas. So if I had to ballpark, I would say between 15 and 20. Don't quote me exactly, but those are all species that I know we have. And there might be a few more.
Okay. I'm asking everyone to leave your question, and yeah, I think we have 36, 23. Okay, people watching this event. So wait. Chelsea, yeah, we had a problem with the live streaming today at the start. So I was trying to fix it during the presentation. So that option was disabled. So now it's enabled. So I'm asking everybody to put your question on comment section on YouTube. Yeah, how many species? Okay, how many species of shark and how many are near of extinction?
Oh gosh, you guys have tough questions. Again, I don't know the exact number of species of sharks, but I can give you a couple of examples. So we have white sharks, like I mentioned; those are our largest ones. And then we have a lot of more near shore, not as large, aggressive sharks, like swell sharks, leopard sharks that live closer to shore. And how many are near extinction? Well, white sharks are endangered, which means that if their populations continue to decline, they might become near extinction. I think that's the only species of sharks that we have that are endangered. But we have lots of other species that are not necessarily near extinction, but that are endangered. The leatherback sea turtle is a big one. It comes all the way from Indonesia. It's a 7,000-mile migration. It's very, very long. And its population is declining. There are less and less leatherback sea turtles every year. So that's one of the ones that our scientists are pretty closely monitoring and doing a lot of research on. Yeah, we don't have, there are a couple of species that are kind of close to extinction. We have a black abalone, which is like a small snail that again is, it's been heavily fished, people eat it. And it's not, I don't know if I'd say close to extinction, but it's definitely endangered.
Lorraine? So go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, at what age did you decide you wanted to go into this career?
Sure. So I was really lucky that I actually grew up here in Santa Cruz. That beach that I showed in the beginning, I've spent all of my summer and time playing in. And I probably in high school, it maybe is a little rare, but here at our high schools, we'll have marine biology classes. And it was probably in high school that I just really, really loved being in the ocean and learning about the ocean. And so I knew that I wanted to study it more in college. And that's sort of what I did. I just always loved learning about it and being out in the ocean and scuba diving. And I just kept on doing it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, probably, I don't know, 16, 17. I liked math a lot before that, but I couldn't see myself just doing math all the time. So
That's great. It's really great. Your presentation, your slides were all excellent. It was really a pleasure to watch. I'm just going to see if there's any more questions that the students had shared. I think that there was one question from Amar Ahmad. Does the hammer shark have weak vision?
we don't have a lot of hammerhead sharks here. They are usually in warmer water. But no, I don't know a ton about that species in general, but I know their eyes are like on the edge of their head, but I think that they still have pretty decent vision. They might have to turn their head a little bit, but I think they can still see pretty well. Our white sharks actually cannot see very well. And that's, whenever we're talking about white sharks, we always remind people that they don't attack humans on purpose. Really, they just can't see very well. And so when people are out there with our wetsuits and our surfboards, they just mistake us for seals. And what happens is that a white shark, if it does bite a human, it almost never bites more than once because it bites it and goes, "Ugh, I don't like that. That wasn't what I meant," and then swims off. So it's always a mistake.
Okay, yes. And I got one question, two questions actually. So how deep is this bay? So I have seen that I was watching some of video related to this bay, and I saw similar species are found in the trenches as well. So are they similar? I mean, those species in the bay and in the trenches, are they similar?
Yeah, so like that video that we saw that was out at Davidson Seamount, that's one of the deepest parts of the sanctuary. That's about, I just did the conversion, 2 miles or about 3.5 kilometers deep. Wow. And so, yeah, you mentioned that we have that canyon or those trenches right in the middle of our bay. And those also go to probably about 3 kilometers deep. And yeah, there's special animals that just live in those deep, deep, deep waters that are very dark, very cold, a tremendous amount of pressure that's sitting on them. And yeah, certain ones that just live in the midwater or on the bottom or just on the side of cliffs. So yeah, lots of life down there, even though it's pretty hard to survive.
So are you enjoying going into deep in the ocean?
So I don't do that as much. So yeah, our scientists do, but they don't go that deep themselves. They send robots down. And when I was in graduate school, I spent some time working on projects with those robots where you basically sit on the back of a boat, of a vessel, and look at a computer monitor and kind of have a remote control like you're playing a video game and get to control these robots that are in the deep, deep sea. In fact, if there's anybody out there looking for a career in marine science, you don't have to just be a scientist. There's lots of careers for engineers or pilots that robot those ROVs or people that drive the boat or, like I said, yeah, engineers that operate the robots or that build them and design them. So there's lots of different ways to get out and do deep sea exploration, and science is just one small bit of the puzzle. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you answered this question. Tara asked if dolphins are a human-friendly animal. Did you answer that already?
Yeah, pretty much. I think all animals are human-friendly animals. They just get misunderstood sometimes. But yeah, I mean, if we were to be out in the ocean, a dolphin is certainly not going to be aggressive towards you. Neither would the sea lions, or elephant seals might if you're on the beach because they're usually trying to protect their babies. So Yeah, it just depends if they see you as a threat. But dolphins generally don't. But also, here in the sanctuary, one of those regulations is that we're not allowed to get very close to marine mammals. We want to leave them at a distance so that they can do their natural behavior and not see us as a threat and not accidentally injure them or upset them. And so, yeah, we don't really get close enough to dolphins to know if they're friendly or not to us because they are living in their natural habitat.
That's great. It's really great.
So, and I hear that these jellyfish, some of jellyfish are venomous. And what happens if they interact with them closely?
Yeah, so that is a species that's not very friendly to humans. So jellies, they catch their prey by having those long tentacles that they're not venomous actually, they're called nematocysts. They're these little stinging cells. So if something touches one of their tentacles, they get stung. And for most fish and animals, it can be quite dangerous and lethal. So they get stuck in those tentacles, and then the jellies are able to eat it. But it stings humans too. So some of them, it's only kind of maybe a little skin rash. But some of them, it could be, if you get enough of the tentacles on you, it could be a problem. So we have some people who are ocean swimmers and even swim across the whole bay, which is about 20 miles. And they always have to have a swimming support with them because if they go into a bunch of jellies, it can be really dangerous and they need to get out of the water right away. I can say that for me, I've been out swimming and accidentally had a jelly brush up against my leg and kind of have, a little swelling or a little area that hurt. And so it's just unpleasant, but there aren't many that would kill humans unless you're in a whole swarm of them. Yeah.
That's amazing. See if there's any more questions.
Okay, so we don't have any other questions. So I'm inviting you to ask your question, as many as you can.
If you want, I can take a minute and I have that. Let me get it up. I can go to that website, that Mbari website, and we can listen together to see if we can hear any ocean sounds right now.
Oh, that would be really neat.
Yeah.
This is the website that you go to it with your daughters?
Yeah, we do it in the evenings just to kind of relax and see what we can hear. So there's not really anything to see, so I'll just go ahead and if we're quiet, we can listen. It sounds like you're in a shower though, because there's a lot of static and feedback from the underwater microphone. So try to ignore the shower part, and we can just listen to see if we can hear any whale sounds come through. I don't know if we're going to hear anything because I don't know if they're out there or anything, but we can try.
So when you go into 2 kilometers deep into the sea, so how you feel the pressure?
How do you hear it?
The pressure.
Oh, well, so humans don't go that deep. That's why we send robots. Is because humans wouldn't be able to survive. There are some submersibles or small, machines where 2 people can go down deep, but we don't use them that often because using robots is so much easier and more effective. All right, so let's listen. Oh yeah, go ahead.
What is the main thing a person should know, a student should know if they are interested in this field? I mean, educationally. So some students have passion. So So what is your advice for these students who are still interested in, ocean, marine biology, and all the fields related to it?
So my biggest piece of advice is that if you want to pursue a career in marine biology or ocean science, think about what are your skills and what do you really want to do? Because like I said, just being a scientist isn't the only route. So I went to graduate school for science and policy. so that I could understand, marine management, because that's what I was interested in, some of the laws and regulations. But there are people, like I said, that are engineers. If you like computer science, you can still pursue computer science and then get an internship at one of these research organizations helping to, code and do the programming for underwater robots. There's so many different types of skills. So yeah, if you really like being outdoors all the time and you really like being on boats, you could maybe become a boat captain or even a mechanic and work on a boat. So there's lots of different types of careers. So I would say think about what it is that you're really good at and what you like to do. And there's probably a way to apply it towards marine science. So let's listen really quickly, and then I think did you hear? That's the shower sound. We'll listen for a second to see if we hear anything. No, I'm not hearing anything right now, but we can check back later.
Okay, Chelsea, so as you know, we have organized 3 sessions, including yours, and for this World Ocean Day, Ocean Week, actually, earliest version of Ocean Week. So this is the second session. So I think that you have, the message to everyone and the concern of the protection of the ocean and all the lives behind the below the water.
Yeah, so my biggest message is, I don't know if you guys know, but World Oceans Day this year was changed to World Ocean Day because our whole planet is really one ocean. And so like I said, no matter where you live on the planet, even if you live inland in your continent, all of the water on the planet eventually makes its way to the ocean. So every single person has a role in protecting our marine environment. And so no matter where you are, you can make an impact, even if you aren't on the coastline all the time. So that's my biggest message for everybody.
Mm.
And try to get out there and experience it. There's so many cool things all around the world. I wish I could travel to where some of you are from and see the ocean or the marine environment where you are.
Yeah, fantastic. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today.
One question, okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Manjula.
Sorry, is there any reason? What can make a shark attack a human? Is there any reason in addition to smell of pee and blood?
Not really, unless they maybe think you're a threat, but not really. No, it's mostly confusion. It's they think you're food.
Okay,
Yeah.
Amar, we answer your question before we go. So, Chelsea, Lorraine, thank you very much for this amazing session. So valuable for all the educators and the students around the world. And maybe their, the life may change watching this, all the videos, because we have done now. This is the 5th session related to the ocean, the protection of the ocean. So, yeah, Lorraine, over to you.
I just want to thank you again for joining us today. I'm sure you've inspired some students that are listening right now and students that will be listening later on today and tomorrow. So thank you again.
Great. Thank you all. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Take care and bye from Boston and bye from the West Coast.
Yep.
And from Sri Lanka.
Okay.